Welcome to New Testament Greek Lesson 1. In this lesson, we'll be learning about the alphabet, vowels, diphthongs, and diacritical markings. On page 2 of your Bob Jones Handbook, you see the alphabet laid out in a chart. On the left-hand side are the uppercase letters, which are known as uncials. Next to them are the lowercase letters, which are known as minuscules. After that comes an English spelling of the name, followed by a pronunciation guide. The pronunciation here is the Erasmusian pronunciation. For this set of lessons, we will continue to use the reconstructed Cunei pronunciation that we learned first semester. So the differences will be Veta will be pronounced as a B instead of as a B. Gamma will have a slightly guttural sound to it. Delta will have a dental aspiration, delta, as opposed to delta. Zeta will sound like a simple Z instead of zeta, as in blades. And the Omicron will be pronounced as a long O rather than as a short O. In the far right column, the transliteration is going to be the same regardless of the pronunciation. Take a note at footnote 1. There you learn that gamma, or gamma, is normally pronounced as a hard g, but when it precedes a kappa, chi, xi, or another gamma, it is pronounced as an N. So angelos has two gammas in it. The first is pronounced like an N, the second as a gamma. On page 3, we finish out the alphabet with sigma, tav, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, and omega. I encourage you to learn the uppercase letters, and you receive extra credit points on the grammar reviews this semester for writing the uppercase letters. One reason is that all manuscripts written prior to the 500s were written in uppercase letters, as well as public inscriptions. And even in our modern New Testaments, the names of the books of the New Testament will be written in all uppercase, or in uncials. Now we come to some information about the vowels. The vowels can be categorized as short or long. And the purpose of this categorization is to help you know where to place the accent on a word, because the length of a given vowel will determine how accents work. And I'll explain that a little later. But what you notice in this chart is that the vowels alpha, iota, and upsilon can be either long or short, whereas the vowels epsilon and omicron are always short, and their corresponding long vowels are eta and omega. So, eta and omega will always be long, epsilon and omicron will always be short. A diphthong is a combination of two vowels pronounced in one syllable, as in the English word out. Greek has 8 principal diphthongs, all of which end in either iota or upsilon. One final comment, footnote 2, I should have mentioned when talking about the letter sigma. That is, that the form on the left is the medial sigma, that which is used in the beginning or middle of a word, and the form in parentheses is called a final sigma because it's used at the end of a word. Now, here's the alphabet, and last semester we learned the alphabet song. And here are the words in the next slide. One more time. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Learning Greek is easy when you sing a song. Zeta, eta, theta, come along, you'll see. Iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi. Omicron, pi, ke, rho. Sigma, tau, ke, upsilon. Phi, ki, psi, and then the last. Omega, haven't we learned them fast? The principal diphthongs that we mentioned previously are listed in this chart. The pronunciation is slightly different in the reconstructed Q&A. Alpha iota is pronounced as in epsilon. Epsilon iota is pronounced as in sigma. Omicron iota is pronounced which you pronounce by making an E sound, and then shift your lips to the U position. Omicron iota, as in euanthropu. Upsilon iota, although it's treated as a diphthong, each letter is pronounced separately in the reconstructed Q&A pronunciation. So it's ue, as in uios, meaning sun. Alpha upsilon is pronounced av. Omicron upsilon is pronounced u, as it's listed there in the book. And epsilon upsilon, or eta upsilon, are pronounced ev, as in the word fev, meaning too bad or oh no. As the text notes, diphthongs are usually long vowels. The only short diphthongs are alpha iota and omicron iota, when used as the last two letters of a word. Diacritics. Diacritics are markings that occur above or below the letters of the alphabet. The first diacritic that is mentioned is the iota subscript. The long vowels alpha, eta, and omega sometimes have an iota called an iota subscript written beneath them, as you can see there in the text. The iota subscript does not affect the pronunciation of the word, but it is an essential part of its spelling. Breathing marks. Every Greek word that begins with a vowel has a breathing mark over that vowel. When a diphthong begins with a word, the breathing mark is placed over the second of its two vowels. The rough breathing mark, which looks like a single left quote, in the Erasmusian pronunciation is pronounced as an H. In the reconstructed Q&A pronunciation, it is not pronounced. The smooth breathing mark, which looks like an apostrophe or a right single quote, is not pronounced either. Thus, in Erasmusian, hen is pronounced hen, but n is pronounced in, whereas in Q&A, both will be pronounced n, at least in ordinary speech. Perhaps when giving declamations or official statements, messages, the rough breathing mark was used. We're not sure. Now, it's important to note that you must include the rough breathing mark anytime a word requires it, because it's an essential part of the spelling of a word. You say, well, how will I know when a word requires a rough breathing mark? Well, as you learn your vocabulary, you will see the rough breathing marks, and that's the clue that you need to remember how to spell that. Accents. As the footnote notes, linguists think that the accent mark once designated musical pitch. We do not know enough about the ancient Greek language to know which pitches were used, but by the time that Alexander the Great conquered the Mediterranean world, accents lost their musical pitch notation and simply indicated stress. Almost every Greek word carries one of three kinds of accents: the acute, the circumflex, and the grave. The circumflex can be written like a bird's eye or like a tilde. You should be aware that both of those reflect the circumflex. Accents always stand over a vowel, and in the case of diphthongs, it stands over the second of the two vowels together. As I mentioned, we will regard the accent as indicating which syllable to stress when pronouncing a word. The rules that govern where to place accents are explained in the next lesson. The last diacritical mark is the diaeresis. Diaeresis. If you've ever seen German or learned it, you've learned a mark called the umlaut, two dots that occur above a vowel. Well, the diaeresis is the same as the umlaut. It's placed over the second vowel when two vowels occur together if the second vowel is to be pronounced separately. So the word kappa alpha iota nu would be pronounced ken if the diaeresis were not over the iota, but since it is there, it's pronounced kain. I will pronounce for you the words given in the pronunciation practice, and then read John 3:16 twice. We will probably use John 3:16 in class for discussion, so I would encourage you to work on beginning to memorize it. Starting with number 1. N, N, duo, pros, pros, tria, soon, soon, tessera, un, pende, doxa, doxa, ex, theos, theos, epta, kurios, kurios, octo, angelos, angelos, enea, iuios, iuios, deca, zeteo, zeteo, endeca, dipsao, dipsao, dodeca, anthropos, anthropos, decatria, baptizo, baptizo, decatessera, adelphos, adelphos, decapende, echo, echo, decaex, eukos, eukos, decaepta, veno, veno, decaocto, apoktino, apoktino, decaenea, evthus, evthus, ecosi, avxano, avxano. Now John 3:16. Outos gar egapesen o theos ton kosmon. Oste ton iuion ton monogene edoken. Ina pas o pistevon is avton me apolete ala eche zoen eonion. Now together. Utos gar egapesen, othaos ton kosmon, osta ton uion ton monogene eloken, inapas opistevon, is avton meapoleta, aleche zoen eonion.